Because nothing costs $1 anymore, so you 2 pennies each time you go up $1. Louise, okay, you do the fucking math in your head. Welcome back to Kandit News for late night with me. In previous episodes, I talked to you all and presented a whole bunch of recordings secretly taken years ago in the office of Frickin' Frack. Yeah. That would be Abbott and Costello, or Paul Salas and Frank Roberto. Frank Roberto is the safety administrator over at the Port Authority of Guam. Well, he was the safety administrator until he recently retired because he's about 240 years old. And Paul Salas, Paul Salas is his idiot minion who still works at the Port Authority, who looks like a really fat lesbian. Yeah. I think Joanne Brown gave birth to him, yeah, at SeaWorld. And these two idiots were tools in Mike Phillips, Joanne Brown, Felix Pangilinan, a name that I'm introducing to you tonight, Dan Tidinko, Mike Benito, Ed Ilau, Christine Boleto in their conspiracy against Bernadette Meno, Vivian Leon, Francis Areola, Francine Rocio, Jojo Guevara, Josette Havalosa, and Leonora Leon Guerrero, also known as the Port 7. A conspiracy that started against Bernadette and against then Port General Manager Mary Torres, and then expanded to a political conspiracy against Vivian Leon, and the other 6 were collateral damage in all of that. And I was a witness to the planning of this conspiracy in Governor Eddie Calvo's chambers, along with Mike Phillips, Dan Tidinko, Mike Benito, Rose Ramsey, Frank Areola. I think that's it. Legal counsel wasn't there, of course, because Mike Phillips was legal counsel and is legal counsel to this day, still billing the port on these cases. And as far as I know, and we're going to call the Port Authority on Monday and try to speak with Rory Respicio on this live for all of you, because I want to know why Mike Phillips still is billing for these Port 7 cases. And I want to know whether Rory Respicio, the general manager, is the person who has been directing Mike Phillips to make certain moves with the Civil Service Commission and in court regarding the Port 7, because Mike Phillips is doing things and the Port Authority is the client. And you would think that Mike Phillips, as the attorney, is following what the Port Authority, its client, is telling him to do. But just in case the port needs more documentation, more proof, more evidence that the conspiracy, that the criminal conspiracy started with Eddie Calvo and his minions, and not with Bernadette Meno and Mary Torres, we have another recording tonight that we're proud to present to you. And now, with this equipment that we have, and I'm sorry about, we're still working out the kinks, and Kandit hasn't actually opened yet. We haven't had our grand opening, so we're just testing everything out right now. If you could we beg for your indulgence as we get this whole shit going. But we're trying these new fangly things, all this technology shit, because we got all this equipment, and it's like state-of-the-art shit. And we have a video for you on top of an audio. And we also will throw the pictures of who all these people are. Well, let's talk about some of them before we throw up this video. Let's throw to a picture of Joanne Brown. It'll be like a wide picture. And I think the setting is SeaWorld, where she normally lives. Yeah, I think that's also where she gave birth to her child in the water. Joanne Brown was the general manager of the Port Authority, brought in to replace Mary Torres when the governor wanted to get rid of Mary Torres because Mary Torres refused to issue notices of adverse action against Bernadette Meno, Vivian Leon, and the other 6, the other 5 who were part of the alleged criminal conspiracy that was concocted by Dan Tidinko and Mike Phillips against Bernadette, Vivian, and such, everyone, right? So, Joanne, since the time that she issued the proposed notices of adverse action to this date, has been vociferous in her attempt to discredit, slander, and libel these people and their families. And because of what she's done, these people have gone through a lot. They've gone through some shit that many people wouldn't be able to come back from. But because of their ability to stick together, because of their faith in God, because, you know, they needed to survive, they banded together and they fought this all the way through. Some of them were offered for their jobs to be reinstated, for their lives to go back on if they would just lie for Joanne Brown, Joanne, and sign an affidavit stating something that was a lie that would get Joanne and Mike Phillips out of the criminal liability they're exposed to this day. And they refused to do it. They said, no, those things didn't happen. I'm not gonna sign that. And because of that, they've lived the past 6 years virtually unable to catch up with their bills, to live the lives that they needed to provide for their children. A couple of them have had medical issues. A couple of them, their spouses had medical issues, and they almost weren't able to provide for those things. Basic human needs, all because of Joanne Brown. And then there's Mike Phillips. Let's throw up old greasy hair. And I don't think we have a picture of his ugly girlfriend, but we'll get one of those. Mike Phillips is the one. He's the legal counsel for the port. He has been for the past several years. He has billed over $7 million for this case alone over the past few years. He has had the most to gain in this criminal conspiracy against the Port 7 and against Senator Mary Torres, because every time he files something, every time he has a conversation, every time he sends an email, the port, you, the people of Guam, have to pay him for all of these lies. So for the past 6 to 7 years, Joanne and Mike Phillips have been at the heart, have been at the head of this criminal conspiracy, and it's only enriched Mike Phillips by at least $7 million, and that's just the liability that the people of Guam have paid to him. That doesn't include the liability that the people of Guam will have to pay in back wages and in punitive damages to the Port 7 and possibly to even Senator Mary Torres because of what they did to slander and libel and defame all of these people, and not to mention the civil rights that were violated because of these people. There are others involved: Dan Tidinko, Mike Benito, Governor Eddie Cowboy's brother-in-law, the one who runs Payless Supermarkets, that rip-off of a motherfucking place. Don't fucking buy a shit at Payless, okay? Everything is cheaper, it costs you less, and 7 Day Supermarket and Happy Mart. Go there, okay? Because Payless just makes the Calvos richer. And then there's Ed Elau, the guy who tried to get a sole source contract with the Port Authority as a member of the board. A multi-million-dollar contract. He has a multi-million-dollar contract with the Guam Power Authority. He has other contracts at GMH, all questionable, all done under the cover of darkness in a corrupt administration where he was the recipient of corporate corruption. And Christine Boleto, who is now the CFO of MidPAC and at the time was the director of the Department of Administration, and prior to that, a member of the board of the Port Authority of Guam. All of them conspired against the Port 7. And we presented a shit ton of recordings of Paul Salas and Frank Roberto revealing the conspiracy. But tonight, we have a new recording of the man underneath, Joanne Brown. I don't know how he survived that because she's so fucking fat that he would have suffocated being under her. You know, like, ugh, I couldn't imagine, ugh, ugh, under Joanne Brown. It's disgusting. That's like swimming under a fucking well, like a school of orca. But Felix Pangilinan is his name. Felix is the deputy general manager of the Port Authority, and he was hired because he was willing to perpetuate these lies against people who he basically grew up with at the Port Authority. They had careers at the Port Authority. They were family there. And this motherfucker was a traitor. He betrayed the love of a family who trusted him and were loyal to him until money spoke. And so when the tides were turned against the Port 7 and Felix Pangilinan was the deputy general manager of the port. He has since retired or since resigned due to a federal inquiry into his actions. Felix on one day called for a meeting of the port's managers, and like the fucking idiot that he is, didn't have everyone leave their cell phones outside on a table so that nobody would be recording, except someone did record. And someone recorded him threatening the managers with their livelihood and with their jobs if they didn't play, if they weren't on board with the criminal conspiracy against Senator Mary Torres and the Port 7. And I want to play for you that recording now.
What part of 33 people who no longer work here at the Port Authority of Guam do you guys not understand? Although they may, some of them may win their cases in CSC. But CSC is so backed up, that could be 2-3 years from now. And it's only a chance that they will win. Not guaranteed. Okay? So who in the meantime takes care of your family? You can't. You don't got a job. You had a job. You actually, many of them had careers. But it ended. Protect yourselves.
Check yourselves. He said to check yourselves. Those are the words of a mafia boss. Those are the words of someone who was dangling the livelihoods of dozens of Port Authority managers if they spoke to investigators, to the FBI, to federal authorities about the truth of what really happened. He threatened them. And Felix Pangilinan, I'm sure that now that this recording is out, you can bet your bottom fucking dollar that the federal government is going to go and interview all those managers. And you know what? Because since you're too dumb to fucking realize that power fades with every administration that comes and goes, and your power is just nothing, that they aren't going to fucking think twice about exposing that fucking meeting and what you meant and what you said and every time that you threatened them. They're going to go to you, and you know what they're going to try and do? They're going to get you to rat out Joanne Brown, and you know what you're going to do? Because you're a spineless, gutless piece of shit, you're going to rat her out. And nothing makes me happier that you've got no spine and that won't happen, because then Joanne, you know, there isn't a prison cell big enough for her. So the feds are going to be like, Joanne, you know what, in consideration of your blubbery, fucking fat self, and the fact that we can't find a detention center, a male detention center that can fit your fat fucking ass. We don't have a pool at the male detention center so that you can swim around like the orca you are, all right? We are going to give you this chance to rat out who was at the head of this criminal conspiracy. And then, just like that, Eddie Calvo goes to jail. Because Joanne knows exactly where this started. She was in the same room that I was, listening to the same story, giving the same fucking words that I described in my criminal complaint to the FBI that she said. I probably even reminded her of her words. How do you like me now, motherfuckers? And that's a wrap.